When you were first started this, obviously no one had Tekhelet except for the Raziner Hasidim who were still clinging to their old Rebbe's formula that Rav Herzog basically unfortunately debunked, and it wasn't so common. Take us back. When did this start? What year? How did they get on the trail of Tekhelet, and in what capacity were you involved?
Okay, so there are a couple of different beginnings. My personal beginning is in 1991 when I became aware of this, and I became aware of it quite. I would say by accident. I had a friend, Joel Guberman, and he called up one night. He said, I met a guy, a rabbi, who believes that he found the real Tekhelet and he needs scuba divers to come find the snails. So would you like to come? So yeah, that would be great. Myself, Joel, and Ari Greenspan, we were 1991. So we're over 30 years ago. So that's a long time. And we were quite young and adventurous at that time. And so why not? So that was my beginning. The beginning previous to that was the rabbi who found this Tekhelet, who was the one who was looking for scuba divers. And his name was Rabbi Eliyahu Tevger. Rabbi Tevger was really the first person in modern times. And by modern times, I'm talking about 2,000 years, or at least 1,300 years, to wear what we believe is real authentic Tekhelet. And Rabbi Tevger went down to the beach and collected these snails, and he found the way to do the dyeing, and it's a very, very exciting and serendipitous story. But anyway, he made 2 sets of Tekhelet, one for himself, which he put on his talis and he wore, and the other for his chavrusa, who refused to get involved in any controversy and put it in his drawer. And that was more or less what Rabbi Tevger wanted to do. He wrote a book afterwards, Rabbi Tevger, explaining all of the laws of Tekhelet, but basically that was where it was until we came in and kind of became a lot more enthusiastic about spreading it practically. But that's also not the beginning, because there's another beginning that happened about 2 or 3 years before Rabbi Tevger did this, which was the solution.
Oh, hold on. We lost Dr. Sterman, so we're going to have to... We lost you for a second there.
Am I back?
Yeah, now you're back. Oh, okay. Maybe I can ask you a question about that. Rabbi Tevger, you said, was able to produce Tekhelet. He went and gathered enough snails in which to produce 2 sets, you said. Yeah. And by set, I guess you mean 8 or 4 strings.
Let's call it the Ravid string, so it's 4 strings, one on each. Okay. One so full string on each.
4 full strings of Tekhelet. And if he had already discovered a whole method, why didn't he start mass producing it then?
There are people who have different things that they do in their lives. Rabbi Tevger's felt that his mission was to understand how to make Tekhelet, to do the research and the halachic research involved in it. And at that point, we joined him. And, you know, everybody has their own little tafkid in this story. And that was ours. But as I said before, there was a little bit of a beginning even before that, which is the discovery, the scientific discovery, which allowed Rabbi Tevger to conclusively prove that our snails, let me just show this to you if I can, our little snail here. I'm backwards on a mirror image here. So this is the snail that we're talking about. Now, this snail is not uncommon, but the problems that were associated with identifying the snail, the Murex trunculus is the Latin name for it, the problems that were associated with identifying conclusively that this was what the Talmud calls the chilazon, the source of the real Tekhelet, were insurmountable, I would say, up until 1985. And so then we go back to even further beginnings. And we can talk a little bit about that discovery. But the beginning of modern Tekhelet research can probably be associated, as you mentioned, with Rabbi Herzog, who wrote in 1914 this incredible...
Oh, sorry, we lost him again. Maybe I could fill that in. Rabbi Herzog, like I said, first chief rabbi of Israel. But before he was chief rabbi, he wrote his... we lost you for a few seconds. I was mentioning Rabbi Herzog wrote his doctoral dissertation or his thesis.
1914, yeah. Hebrew porphyrology. He invented that word, porphyrology, meaning the study of purple. And Rabbi Herzog wrote an incredible piece of research where he collected not only everything that had to do with Tekhelet from the Jewish side of things, all of the Talmud, Mishnah, Medrash, anything that had to do with that, but he also collected all of the research from the secular standpoint, the archaeological evidence, or where it had been leading and where it had been pointing. The scientific in terms of marine biology and the chemistry. He was in constant contact with chemists and with biologists and zoologists and malacologists and whoever else you could imagine to find out about that. But Rabbi Herzog had an insurmountable problem. I don't know if you can tell what color this is, Rabbi Grossman.
Yeah, well, it's not like that blue and black dress. I could see it's purple.
You can see it's purple. Okay. If you take our snail and you do the dyeing with it, I'm getting confused here with the mirror image. But if you take our snail and you do the dyeing with it, it's already been known for actually over 200 years that you're going to get a beautiful, gorgeous, lasting dye. But this is the color purple. And Rabbi Herzog could not accept the fact that our tradition, which says Tekhelet is sky blue, Tekhelet domer liyam v'yam domer l'rakia, Tekhelet is like the sky in last week's Parsha. Underneath the floor of the heavens is the Even HaSapir, right? Which looks like Etzim HaShamayim LaTohar. It looks exactly like the clear sky, and Even HaSapir looks like Tekhelet. So our tradition believed that Tekhelet was sky blue. And Rabbi Herzog could not get around this problem. He really wanted to believe that the Murex was the true source of the Tekhelet. It gave him purple, and that's where he was, and that's where he left it. At 1914, he was not able to solve that problem. In 1959, he passed away, still unable to solve that problem. And it wasn't until 1985 where he was able, the world was able to solve this problem. And based on that, Rabbi Tevger was able to conclusively say, okay, we've got our little snail. Now we just have to make the dye. He knew how to make it blue, beautiful sky blue. And this is Tekhelet. And this you can see is just a beautiful, beautiful sky blue. And this also comes from our snail, but there's a secret to it. I don't know if your viewers are ready to hear the secret. You'll let me know.
It's okay. Sooner rather than later, because, with everything, I'm time constrained by the missus and the kids.
Well, the answer really is, it's actually, Baruch Kashemesh, as they say here in Israel. It's obvious as the sun in the sky. And in 1985, the researcher who was doing work on these snails and the dyeing noticed that when he would do his dyeing, and it's a very, very smelly process. So he had the windows open and he would put the dye on the windowsill to keep at least as much of the smell out of the laboratory as he could. On cloudy days, he indeed got this kind of a purple dye, but on sunny days, he got a beautiful, beautiful blue dye. And that led him to research and realize Professor Otto Elsner we're talking about. And he realized that at a specific stage in the dyeing process, if you expose the dye solution to sunlight, then you will get beautiful blue, sky blue instead of purple. That discovery was written up in a paper in 1985. Rabbi Tevger saw the paper, Rabbi Tevger was made aware of the paper, and the rest, as they say, is history. So we became involved in this, and we've been doing all of what we can to produce Tekhelet for Am Yisrael from the first days when we were maybe able to make 5-10 a year to the current time when we can produce many tens of thousands for Am Yisrael. And it's really a wonderful thing to see it proliferating.